Hi guys, welcome to Charities Bubble, your number one channel. Guys, I'm here. I have a new topic that I'm gonna talk about. But before that, I wanna acknowledge all my subscribers. Guys, you're awesome, awesome, awesome. I am overwhelmed by your support. I also wanna thank my new subscribers and my new subscribers, guys. I don't know what's going on. My new subscribers, thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us, for joining this space. I also want to talk to you who hasn't subscribed to my channel. Guys, please consider subscribing to the channel. I come here to talk about pathways that you can use to immigrate to the USA. And I just give you tips and tips and tips and tips on how to do it. So today I am going to talk about a marriage-based sponsored green card. That's what I'm going to talk about. So stay tight and flow with me. My name is Charity Nganga. Charities Bubble USA is your number one channel. Guys, give this video a thumbs up. We give our opinions here. You are allowed to ask questions, anything, so that you can know the different pathways that you can use to come to the USA. So I live in Wichita, Kansas. I came here with a DV lottery. That's why I'm very passionate about DV, because it changed my life. Now I want your life to change. And by watching this video, you can get something from here. And also it's good to research and just verify and see if you can get more information. So let's go right to the topic. So I need you to sit back, relax, and watch. Now, please give this video a thumbs up, guys. That's how we flow. That's how we flow in this space. Now, I want to talk about a green card through marriage, because you can have a green card through marriage, and you can also have a green card when you have a fiance who lives in here in the US. Now, green card through marriage is whereby you marry a US citizen or you marry a legal permanent resident, and when you marry either one of those, because those people they are allowed. So that's what I want to talk about. Is you can get a green card. So those two people qualify to give you a green card through marriage. Now, on the other hand, a fiance visa is a little bit different, because for a fiance visa, you have to file a form. It's called, you have to, the person who is marrying you, who is in the US, has to file a form called I-130. And they might require you to file a different form that I'm going to talk about in the process of this session. Now, let me talk about when you marry a US citizen or when you marry a US legal permanent resident. Permanent residency occurs when you have won your green card and you have come and to live here in the US. The status that you get is called a permanent residency. Now, so you want to marry that you want to marry that person, and so what is the process? It's a little bit different from the DV, and that's why I'm here to just give you tips on how you can successfully maneuver and get your partner that kind of visa, because as soon as you're married, you can file for them, and they can become US permanent residents and eventually become citizens. Now, there are requirements for that. The first requirement is that that marriage must be a real marriage, not a fake one. It's not a fake one. So you have to be able to prove that it's a real marriage. And that there are ways that you're going to prove that it's a real marriage. And I am going to outline all of them in this video, guys. So once again, this is Charities Bubble USA, your number one channel. Keep tight, and then we can see those points that you have to do. Now, when you are filing for citizenship for your spouse is either your wife or your husband, you will have to fill out a form called I-130. But before you go for that, when you are marrying a U.S. citizen, when you get married to the U.S. citizen or the U.S. legal permanent resident, they are your financial sponsor. They are sponsoring you through that kind of visa. Now, that means that if you have problems, you're in trouble, or maybe you are depending on welfare somewhere, or maybe you're bankrupt, or maybe you have so many debts that you need to be paid. You find that they require the sponsor or the person who is filing for you to be able, they can be followed, and they can pay such debts for you. So that means that they are able to financially support you, or to financially sponsor you. Another thing that I am going to talk about, maybe you can, and they have their own categories of the amount that you can sponsor that person. But sometimes you can say, what if I don't have all that money? What if I just work a regular job that I'm paid $10 an hour, and I want to file for someone for a US citizens, for a green card, or eventually to a US citizen? You find that you can have a friend, or whereby the friend qualifies the amount that is needed to sponsor your spouse, and then you can that person you jointly, both of you can file jointly for that spouse, not necessarily for anything, but it is just to show that you can be able to sponsor your fiance, your married partner. Okay, now you will need to do, or to fill a form called a Form I-130. Now, what is Form I-130? Now, Form I-130 is a form that is filled out to show evidence of your marriage. It is a form filled out online to show the evidence of your marriage, whereby the person who is marrying you, who is a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident, is going to file for you. Now, on the other hand, you might be asked to file a different kind of form if you are in the US too, and you want to marry a US citizen, or you're married to a US citizen. That file that you will file if you're already here in the US is called Form I-485. It's called a form like just to adjust your status, to change your status to married. So you file that form. What about the person who is outside US? The person who is outside US will be prompted to fill out a form at DS-260, so that they can give all their details. So it's good to look at the requirements, because when you start filing, they will tell you, they will give you a list of things that you're supposed to do. So you have to be very attentive when you are looking at that stuff. Now, so the Form I-130, you have filed it. You have filed it. You have to show the evidence of your marriage. Now, you find that sometimes they tell you to upload some documents. On that form, there's a place that they tell you to upload. So what are you going to upload there? You are going to upload something like your record of the bank, your bank statement. And it should be joint, because this is a marriage, and you find that when people get married, they tend to do things together. So they expect to see that bank account has both of your names. They expect to see that bank account is used regularly. So there is no way that you can just open an account last week and you say that is the account that you are gonna use to go and file the I-130, or maybe as evidence of your marriage, because it's not gonna work. It has to be an active account, whereby that is the account that you use for many things, to do your daily activities. That is where you get money from. And sometimes it can even include the money that you earn, that both of you earn, that it is coming through that account, to show that unity between both of you. So that's very, very important. Of course, you will have to submit your marriage certificate. That one is very important, because that is the paper, the legal paper that shows that both of you are man and wife. So very, 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 very important. Another thing that you will have to submit is photos. When you did your wedding, did you take any photos? You can submit those ones, because those are very important. You are trying to prove that it is a real marriage, and for you to prove that it's a real marriage, you have to give supporting documentation. I told you guys, here in the US, it's all about paperwork. Paperwork, left and right. So you have to submit those documents, because there is no way that you can say that you are married to an individual and you do not have any evidence to show that relationship between the man and wife. That is normal, because they expect, if you are married, you're married. And they make sure that you are not getting into a marriage because of convenience. Marriage of convenience is whereby you want to marry that person simply, solely because of papers. And why I say that is because when you marry someone, you develop a relationship. You develop a relationship. You develop even dependability towards one another. So you find that if After you get your papers and after you get your citizenship, you want to divorce that person. That is wrong. People get broken because of such kind of things, because they feel that they have been taken advantage for. And that is why the US government comes in, immigration comes in, to make sure that you are not taking advantage of a US citizen or a US legal permanent resident by just marrying them so that you can get papers. That is why they will ask for a lot of proof. You have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that you are not in that marriage for convenience. Very, very, very important. You have to show all that evidence. Now, you have filed that form. That is the first way for you to prove that you are in a marriage that is not a marriage of convenience. That is the first way, when you file the form I-130, and I have said what you need to submit for that form. Now, let us talk about something else, the interview. You will go for an interview, both of you will go for an interview, and when you go for an interview, the immigration officer or the consular is going to ask you guys questions. So take it like just a normal couple who are married. They do things together. They know stuff about one another. You know, those are the kinds of things that they're gonna go and ask you in that interview. They're not gonna just switch hand. They're gonna ask you that. And before you go for that interview, because you filled out the form I-130, make sure that you review, or any other form, whatever 485, DS-260. Make sure that you review, because the questions that they will ask you will come from there. They will come from there. And it's good if you're using a lawyer to go and talk to your lawyer before the interview, so that your lawyer can advise you accordingly. Because if you do not, then you will not know what to say, because those people are expert, they are legally. What I do here is just to give you tips on what you can do, but I'm not a lawyer, but I talk about it because I read, and I just want to share how I can help someone and where to go to look for this information. And like I said, when you go to the website travel.state.gov, you are able to see this kind of visa. This marriage sponsored visa, which you can apply if you fall in love with a US citizen or a legal permanent resident. So very, very important. Now, another thing, so before you go to the interview, there's another thing that you can use to show that you are in a real marriage. For example, you own a property somewhere, or you own some land somewhere. You find that in a marriage setting, the woman is always included. So you find that if you are showing stuff that you own together, maybe you own cars together, or anything that you own, but it's together, you find, even if it's a business, if you show them that you own together, that makes the marriage more believable. Because here we are trying to look at the things that can help, because this is very different from a DV. This is not a lottery. This is something that you will be grilled and grilled, especially if the consular suspects that you are lying to them. You will be grilled and grilled and grilled. So you have to know what you're doing. Do your homework properly. Another thing, so I said you talk to your lawyer. Of course, I review the information that you have submitted. Whatever that you submitted, it's good to review that. Another thing that I want to talk about is before the interview. Before the interview, both you and your spouse should be able to sit down and just review each other. You know, you might think that you know your spouse very well, but you don't know them. There's stuff that you don't know about them. So it's good to know. You know, you might go for the interview and they ask you, when I get into your living room, what is the first thing that I see? They can ask you something like that, because they wanna make sure that you're living in the same house. Now, if you say that the first thing that you will see is a painting, maybe they tell you what is next to the fireplace, or maybe what is on top of the fireplace. Maybe you say it's a wall hanging that is there. And then your spouse goes there and they say that it's a TV that is on top of there. Those are two conflicting things, because if you're married, you should know what is on top of your fireplace. You see what I mean? They might even ask you, what did you eat for breakfast? So if you say that a different thing and your spouse says a different thing, then they might suspect that you are not telling the truth. That is why you find that it depends on where you're going. There are some offices that will divide both of you. You will go separate, and there are some that do not care. But if the immigration officer really suspects that you are not telling the truth, or you are not in a real marriage, you will be grilled and grilled and grilled until, because they have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. They are trained to prove beyond reasonable doubt that you are married for the good reasons. You are married to establish a life. You know what I mean? Like you want to live a happily ever after. You don't want to live happily ever after until you get your papers and then you get out of that marriage. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. You know, I've talked to a couple of people since I've been here in the US, and they have married people outside. And then when they married people outside, and those people ended up becoming legal permanent residents and they became citizens, they abandoned them. You know, I would not want to be abandoned by anybody after giving them papers. I would feel so bad. So when you're getting into such a marriage, consider that the person that you're marrying is a human being. They have feelings. Feelings. So the thing of like you want to marry someone and then you want to divorce them when you get papers. That is why immigration is very strict, because they do not want Americans to be taken advantage of. They do not want the legal permanent residents to be taken advantage of. So you have to really, 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 really know each other. Practice before you go for the interview. If you know, you have to be able maybe to know, say who you know on the other family member. It's good to know the members of your extended family, because maybe they can ask you, have you met your mother-in-law? And then you say yes, and you have never met them. So you have to be able to answer questions. The other thing that they can ask you is, where did you go for vacation? So if one person says that we went to Disneyland, and then the other one says at that particular time they were at work, you find that doesn't rhyme. It doesn't rhyme. So you have to be able to give closer answers. And a close answer would be like this. Maybe they ask you, when did you have your first child? Or when did you get, sometimes it doesn't even necessarily have to be kids are involved. Maybe they can ask you, how did your spouse propose? You know, that's very personal. How did they propose? So if you tell them that I was taken to this hotel and he proposed there, and then the other person says there was no proposal. Because in Africa, the way the things were done, I know right now people are just they're just becoming westernized and they're doing proposals or whatever. But you find that in those days, people are not proposing to their wives. They are not. Some people even have ended into a marriage because of being lied to. You're promised stuff, a lot of stuff that you will never find, and then you end up in a marriage. And since you got kids, then you don't know what to do. You don't know whether to get out or to stick there. You don't know. No, you have to be able to tell them. You have to be able to know. If someone did not propose to you formally, then tell them that they did not. Do not add anything. Do not lie to the consular. You cannot, because if you do, that puts your case into jeopardy. It decreases your chances of getting that green card. So you should be aware of that. It's very, very important. So like I said, know each other well. You don't necessarily even have to know like a million people in whatever in the family of your spouse. No, but know some people. You know, tell them, I know this person. Maybe you interact through FaceTime, especially if you live here in the US and your spouse is from Africa and you haven't traveled there. Then it's good to say, yes, I know them, but I have only talked to them through the phone or through the FaceTime, whatever. They will also need photos of where you have traveled. You know, like even if you go out, like me, when I go out, I take my kids out, and I go with my husband out. I must take a photo. I just love to take photos just for remembrance. So they will want to know stuff like that. You know. Another thing, so we have talked about that. Now let us see how the reasons or the things that can make the immigration officer suspect that you are lying, or they have a suspicion to that relationship, or do they think that is a relationship of benefit? It's whereby, let's assume that the person who is marrying you have an age difference of 20 years, 30 years, you know, or that will raise eyebrows. Because if I, like even me, if I gotten married to someone who is 30 years older than me, we don't even have any common interest. Those are two different separate minds. And I'm not against like people who marry like older people. No, I am not. But I know in terms of thinking and in terms of even life, because that person has experienced more in life. And I'm not saying that they cannot succeed. They can, but that is something that can raise the eyebrows of the immigration officer. And they would want to know more. Why are you getting married? For example, you're a girl who is 20 years old and you're ending up marrying a man who's 50 years old. Oh, they will ask. They will want to know. Actually, they're not even thinking that you're lying, but they have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that marriage is going to last. That the person who is seeking who is seeking to become a U.S. green card holder is not indeed there for just for other purposes other than maybe sharing the life together. So you have to approve beyond reasonable doubt. Another thing that can make them suspect is if you live in different places. You find that when you're married, you are supposed to live in the same house. That means you live in the same address. But if you're submitting your stuff through a different address and your spouse is submitting their stuff through a different address, then that raises eyebrows, because they will want to know why aren't you living together. So you have to be able to prove why you are not living together, of which even someone like me, a regular person, I would be like, those people are married, why are they not living together? Those are normal questions that even when you're going for that interview, or when you are in such a relationship, that you expect to be asked, because they look at marriage, they expect the marriage to be true. So you cannot, chances of you losing on it when you are going there for other purposes are very high, because those people are trained very, very well to detect stuff that is going on wrong. And Americans, they are trained to even to study body language. Just body language. They will look at how you are behaving when you are being whatever, because they are observing you. They are very, very observant. And that's something that I had to learn when I came to the US. I will tell you when someone is not telling me the truth. They will even look at your eye contact. Are you maintaining eye contact, or what are you doing? And that is why I am here, so that I can tell you. When you go for any interview in an immigration office, make sure that you are making eye contact. Make sure that you are answering what you are being asked. Do not volunteer information. And I'm saying about volunteering information because I know us Africans, we really like to volunteer information. Because someone can ask you, where do you live? So like me, someone asked me, where do you live? I live in Wichita, Kansas, period. That's it. But you find that you can ask someone, where do you live? They tell you, I live in Wichita, Kansas, but I have been living there for 5 or 10 years. So you were not asked how long you are living there, but you volunteered information. So when you are going to these interviews, do not volunteer information. If you have not been asked a question, if you have not been asked to submit a document, do not submit it. Don't volunteer information, because if you are not asked, then they will not question if you have not asked. But you might volunteer information that might make the consular raise eyebrows and be like, oh, okay. And then that is the question that they will ask your spouse, and maybe you will end up losing on it. So you have to be very, 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 very careful on that. So as those are some of the things. And if they have asked you for information, make sure all the documents that they have told you go with this, that you should be able to provide that. Another thing, so what another thing you should know about your spouse? You should be able to know about their routine. Where do they work? How much money do they earn? It's good to know about such things, because you don't know what they are going to ask you. I'm not saying that those are the questions that will be asked, but you can be asked that, because I'm looking at my life. I am married. How much do I know my husband? That is what they expect. How much do you know them? So you should know. Even you should know what time what time do they even get up? What shift do they work? You should be able to know such information. Of course, if you submit your bank statement, they will look at your credit. So that they would want to know if maybe how much is your budget even for a month. They can ask you a question. I'm just trying to just think of the question that you can be asked. So it has to be on your fingertips. And like I said, if you are using a lawyer, you have to be able to have interviews with your lawyer, so that they can guide you, because a lawyer is there to guide you. It's not there to do the interview for you. They're there to guide you on how to successively go through the interview. So you should be able to listen to them and follow their guidelines. And when you do that, you find that it's going to be very easy for you to be able to successfully get that visa through marriage. So guys, those are tips on how you can succeed getting a marriage visa. So if you're married to a US citizen, married to a US legal permanent resident, that is the visa for you. If you do not have a US citizenship or US legal permanent residency. So for any questions, put them there in the comments below, and I am going to answer them at my best, guys. So thank you for staying with me and watching this video. So until next time, God bless you and stay safe.